Next Gen Console Watch is presented by the Army National Guard. To find out more about how the National Guard is delivering food, building hospitals, and working in our communities during the COVID pandemic, visit nationalguard.com/esports. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch 2020, our show where we follow all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Damon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
Good to see you, Damon.
And Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Beyond, Damon.
And we begin this week with Project Lockhart, Xbox Series S, the long-rumored, lower price, less powerful version of Xbox's next-generation console. According to Eurogamer sources, it will be officially revealed in August. Ryan, how are you feeling about this?
It makes a ton of sense, actually, because they're not going to show the Lockhart. They're not going to string us along on whatever Lockhart is, which they have. I don't say it disrespectfully, but they've been piecemealing out information about the Series X, about the capabilities, what it looks like, the games we're going to see for it. We've got this July first-party showcase to look forward to very soon, sometime in the next 30 days, and then it would make sense that Microsoft. All right, we showed you the Series X. That's our main console. We've shown you some third-party games from the May event. We've shown you our first-party future here in July, and now in August we'll show you the rest. So the lower-priced Lockhart entry, and then I presume we're going to get a lot more at that event as well, which I know we're going to talk about in a second.
Sure. What about specs? Have there been any sort of rumors about how much what the power difference is going to be between Series X and Lockhart?
The rumors suggest, and these are just rumors for now, that it will be we're pretty confident it is a lower spec machine. It is a less powerful machine, no optical drive, similar to the PS5 Digital Edition, but very dissimilar in that the PS5 Digital is the same console, just without a disk drive. This is going to be an actual different machine that has different specs. We expect it'll still have the NVMe SSD hard drive for the super fast loading time stuff, that sort of next gen baseline, but less RAM, less teraflop overall teraflop capability. Word on the street is that it's a 4 teraflop machine to Series X's 12. However, the 4 is very different than the Xbox One X's 4 because it is based on much newer generation, the RDNA 2 technology. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison. So it'll still be a step up from the Xbox One X, but definitely a step down from the Series X.
And how much lower in price would you expect the Lockhart to come in?
Well, there have been rumors going around that it's half the price. I can say on this show that I have personally heard that it is, I was sort of generally told that it's $300 or less. I don't know the exact price. I was not given what this person thought the exact price was, but so it's probably cheaper than a lot of people think it is, because I think a lot of people have thought, well, including me for a while, $400 for the Lockhart, $500 for Series X, but no, it's Microsoft's they are taking a very interesting strategy with this.
Wow. So, Jonathan, what do you think about all this? If this is true, it is a very different strategy from what Sony is doing with the PlayStation 5. Would a $300 model really pose like a really serious challenge to Sony this fall?
I think it's really going to depend on what that model is showing off and also how they market that model, because if it is that much less powerful than the Series X, to me, it plays more into their ethos of, we just want to get you into the Xbox ecosystem. We just want you into the door, less so than them saying like, this is the future of next gen hardware, which seems to be what PlayStation is trying to say. They're saying, if you want next gen, you need to buy a PS5. Like, the PS4 is not going to give you the same experiences, and that's why you need PS5. Xbox is going for the Play Anywhere initiative, which I think is a great, very consumer-focused initiative, but I do think it's going to lead to a very different launch than we've ever seen before with these two companies competing, because they are seemingly going after a different set of the mind share. Like, they're approaching this in very different ways. So I honestly don't know, because we still don't know what Sony is going to say about price, how that Lockhart model will impact the PS5.
Mm-hmm. If these rumors are true, and we get the price and release date for the Series X and the Lockhart in August, do you think we'll have that information for the PlayStation 5 by then?
I think Sony will hold off as long as they can. And I think literally, even if that is one day after Microsoft, they will hold off just to see. But given how Microsoft has acted, I think they are probably also a little more confident in pushing with their price and date first, especially with that two-tier model. And if it is as low as, Ryan has been hearing or anything even comparable, that's definitely lower than even the best estimates for the PS5. So
Right.
It'll certainly be an interesting response to see.
Mm-hmm. And before we have to move on real quick, Ryan, if all the rumors that you were just sharing with us are true, do you think these are all smart moves by Microsoft to have a much lower priced version of their next gen console?
I honestly don't know, Damon. I have to be honest because it is going to be a weird situation for Microsoft in the messaging department. Like the PS5, it's pretty straightforward. We've
Mhm.
got a PS5 for you. It's only compatible with PS5 games. We want our developers to program for it and to take full advantage of it. And you can buy it in an optical drive version or a purely digital version. So it's pretty straightforward, regardless of anything else you want to say or talk about with regard to the PS5. With Microsoft taking this much more sort of systemic, holistic approach to things, and having it's very PC like, right? I mean, it's you've got a low end PC, which is going to be the Xbox One. You've got the mid range, which is going to be the Lockhart, and you've got the high end machine, which is going to be the Series X. I mean, it's going to be up to Microsoft to demonstrate the value and the strengths of the Lockhart choice versus just not even upgrading at all from a one or a 1X to a Lockhart, or and sort of justifying the Lockhart's existence in between the current generation Xbox One and the next generation Series X. So I mean, affordability always helps. I mean, if you can play Halo Infinite in a noticeably better way on Lockhart than you can on the Xbox One or Xbox One X, that will go a long way. So I'm just very curious how Microsoft is going to really position Lockhart as a good choice rather than just a something that's hamstringing or just lurking strangely between the other two options.
Well, we should know a lot more within the next couple months. Dear viewers, Next Gen Console Watch this week is presented by the Army National Guard. To celebrate the upcoming release, we're giving you a chance to win a Next Gen console by giving away a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X to 2 lucky winners at the end of this month. To enter, all you need to do is visit guardgiveaway.ign.com, where you'll also find official rules for the giveaway. What are you waiting for? Go to the site, sign up for a Next Gen console. That's pretty exciting. All right, let's move on to our next topic, where we'll compare the currently known exclusives for both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Jonathan, feel free to interject, but I think there are 9 PS5 exclusives that we know of so far.
9 PS5 only. There's a few that are console exclusive launches, but yeah, 9
Right.
PlayStation 5 specific. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like not including things like Deathloop, correct?
Yes, and Ghostwire Tokyo. Yeah.
Okay, but it would include things like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Well, now this list includes Horizon Forbidden West, so I guess it's not launch exclusives that we're looking at here. These are just overall exclusives we know of. Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7. Then you get into Demon Souls, the remake, Astro's Playroom, Destruction All-Stars, Returnal, and Sackboy: A Big Adventure. So just sort of how are you feeling about that exclusive lineup today, Jonathan?
I mean, I'm pretty happy with it, especially not knowing a month ago of any PlayStation 5 exclusives. It's nice to have a clearer idea. It's an interesting list because it's both indicative of a lot of strong announcements, but also a lot of what's not said. And I think, we can sort of look at this and say, okay, well, God of War 2 is probably a little bit further down the line. Japan studio could definitely have more things in the works that we don't know about. A few other studios in the Sony first party portfolio just put out games in the last year or two. Naughty Dog, Bend, and obviously Sucker Punch with Ghost of Tsushima later this month. So there's still a lot that they will be able to reveal as the months go on. But I really like this because I do think it shows such a strong wide view of how they can reach different audiences. You know, you have like really, really dedicated hardcore experiences like the Demon Souls remake or Gran Turismo 7. You have the big Sony first party titles and franchises that have meant so much to the PS4, like Spider-Man and Horizon and Ratchet and Clank. You have family friendly fare like Ratchet and Clank and Astro's Playroom and Destruction All Stars, and Sackboy. So I think it's a really strong, varied list. You know, and I expect we'll only continue to see big names populate the exclusives list as we go into next gen.
Well, exclusives are, of course, the area where Microsoft has really struggled this generation. However, I think we've got just about the same number of confirmed exclusives for Series X as there are for PlayStation 5 right now. And of course, that list is led by Halo Infinite. We know there'll be Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, Forza Motorsport 8, and then smaller games like Everwild, The Medium, Scorn, The Ascent, and Orphan of the Machine. And of course, we should note that in sometime this month, there's going to be a big first-party showcase for Xbox Series X games. So, Ryan, how are you feeling about the exclusive lineup for the Series X today?
Ask me again in 3 weeks, Damon, because it really is. We've said it before, and it sounds hyperbolic, but it's not. A lot of that of the initial early momentum for Series X is going to hinge, I think, on how this July first party showcase goes, because we've been waiting. You know, Microsoft's been talking the talk and now walking the walk with acquiring the studios of trying to fix their first party problem for years, and now we're finally going to see what a lot of those teams and studios have been working on. So, I mean, you touched on it. It's Halo Infinite's going to lead the way. We're expecting Forza Motorsport 8, but then the rumored Fable reboot at Playground Games' second team, where their first team works on Forza Horizon. The Initiatives game, which of course the Initiative was formed down in Santa Monica, right in that hotbed of God of War development team. Of course, Naughty Dog's down there. There's a ton of talent down in that area, and they've pulled from a lot of those too. They pulled from Insomniac. One of their creative leads came from Insomniac and Sunset Overdrive. So, are they doing a Perfect Dark reboot or reimagining in the same way that Sony Santa Monica reimagined God of War? So, yeah, I do think a lot is going to get answered at this July showcase.
Yeah, we'll definitely revisit this topic in 2 or 3 weeks and sort of compare the list of exclusives again once we know more. All right, dear viewers, it is time for this week's poll. We want to know, how do you plan to play next-gen games? Will you be playing them on the PlayStation 5 with the optical drive, or the discless PS5, Xbox Series X, or Project Lockhart, or on PC? Make sure to vote at IGN.com. We will share the results with you next week, just like we're sharing last week's poll with you this week. Right now, we asked you if you're ready to go all digital yet with an all digital console, all digital games. And 44% of you said, nope, you still like to own your own games. However, 37 said, yes, you're definitely ready to go all digital. You are more machine than human now. This is, I feel like this changeover, the sea change, has slowly been happening for many years now. Ryan, how many more years have to go by before those numbers flip?
I mean, look, you can see we're coming with diskless console options right at launch now. I mean, Microsoft did one later in the Xbox One generation with the Xbox One S all digital, affectionately known as the Xbox One SAD. But yeah, here we are right at the beginning of the generation with the Lockhart and the digital PS5. So it does seem like we're finally really inching toward it as a just widely adopted thing. I'm not saying that we won't get another console generation that won't include disk drives at all, but it does seem like people are really willing to go to digital more and more now.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised, Jonathan, that when Sony revealed the PlayStation 5, they revealed those two models and the diskless console. I thought that was pretty significant. Would you agree?
Yeah, I honestly didn't expect them to reveal the diskless edition of the PS5 during that reveal event, or honestly at all for this launch. I do think it speaks to the sea change that we're seeing, and especially, in the last few months with so many people sheltering in place, a lot of sales have been happening digitally instead of obviously over physical. I think there will for a while, like Ryan was saying, still be physical disc choice options, because at the end of the day, really great internet is not always widely available, not just in North America, but in so many parts of the world. So I think there will be that option for quite some time. But I personally almost only buy games digitally at this point. And so I think it's definitely indicative of where we've come over this generation, are only going to keep going in generations to come.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking news, everyone. If you're wondering why your standard episode of Next Gen Console Watch is being interrupted, it's because we just got some big Next Gen news that could have big ramifications for the rest of the generation going forward. I'm, of course, Jonathan Dormish, and I'm joined by Matt Kim to talk about this breaking news that we have. So the story is that we have gotten confirmation that NBA 2K21, which is coming for both current gen and next gen this year, will be $10 more on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X version. The PS4 and Xbox One version, this is for the standard edition of the game, will cost the typical $59.99, whereas the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions will cost $69.99, which is, of course, a $10 increase. For reference, both generations special editions, which is known as the Mamba Forever Edition, will have the same price point regardless of which generation you buy it on, $99.99. And you, in order to get any sort of upgrade or cross generation, getting both versions of the game, you do need to buy this Mamba Forever Edition. There is no smart delivery service being used for NBA 2K21 or any sort of similar program on PS5. You have to get that special edition. But we do want to, of course, talk about this price change. And Matt, what do you think about seeing this? Are you surprised about it? Because this is sort of the first confirmation we've seen of a next-gen game getting a price increase.
I mean, the news did catch me by surprise, but I think the industry as a whole has been expecting some sort of standard MSRP price bump for a while. After all, when the game generations moved from the PS2 to the PS3 and comparable for Xbox, it went from $50 to $60. So it's not uncommon for video game market prices to change like this.
Yeah, and it was actually surprising to me that when we changed to this current generation that we're in, that we didn't see any sort of similar price hike. But I do think, and we were talking about this before we recorded, a little bit of that may have come with the addition of microtransactions, and those were often framed as, a way to help offset those costs. Do you think, because I've seen this concern from a lot of our audience, are you expecting that we may still continue to sort of see microtransactions as we go into next gen? Do you think this will help offset the cost? How do you think publishers and developers will need to respond?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think we understood from the current generation that microtransactions was a sort of way to shore up the price for developers. We know that video games are being sold at a loss at $60, and so season passes and stuff like that were helped to fix some of that. It would be interesting to see, because so far it's only one game, but it would be interesting to see if we see both video game prices increase for next generation, as well as the inclusion of the standard $30 season pass. With the inclusion of the Mamba Forever Edition, which is $100, it seems to indicate that 2K at least is still going to release more expensive versions of games that they release, even on top of a standard price increase.
Yeah, I feel like regardless of what we see on the microtransaction level, special editions are here to stay, because if they can convince you to buy that extra statue, they'll find the money from you somehow, I think. But it is curious definitely to see. It is worth noting, as you pointed out, currently some next-gen games like Scarlet Nexus, when they've been listed on Amazon at first, are still listed at the $59.99 price point. So it will be very interesting to see if this is a selective price at the beginning of this generation, and whether or not it gets adopted widely, or if people sort of piecemeal take it up. It will be interesting to see that change. I did want to bring up, and I was curious about your thoughts of Sean Layden, the PlayStation executive, recently did talk about how he felt that there was this imbalance when it came to AAA game costs, because essentially we've seen this rise in the price of how much it costs to produce these big budget AAA games as they continue to increase in size and budget and everything, but the price point has stayed the same. Do you see this possible price hike across the industry maybe as a response to that, to be able to adjust accordingly?
Absolutely. I think, as we mentioned before, because of inflation and stuff like that, video games have been sold cheaper than they actually market-wise should be. But I'm hoping that in regards to Sean's comments, that maybe this might open up the industry for a little more flexibility, where the AAA games will be priced a little more pricier, but maybe AA games will be priced a little cheaper, especially with the rise of the popularity in digital sales for games.
Absolutely. I think a variety of prices of $20 games and $40 games and $60 and or $70 games will, one, both help communicate to players a lot more, but also provide more choices, and we'll be able to see how consumers respond with their wallets. I did want to point out we had looked sort of at inflation because we've been talking about it, and in 2005, something that would have cost $60 would now cost $78.77 roughly. This is all US based economy. Obviously, it's different throughout the world. Whereas back in 1996, during the N64 days, $70 would now be $114.39. So obviously, the price of games has not adjusted with inflation, but especially when you bring up the fact that we're in a year that's facing massive recession issues and so many people out of work, it's going to be very interesting to see how game fans and buyers respond to this price increase.
Absolutely.
I will throw it from there back to the rest of the episode, but thank you, Matt, so much for joining me for this quick discussion about this breaking news. And definitely, listeners and viewers, please let us know what you think about this price change in the comments.
Well, dear viewers, that will about do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch 2020. Thank you to Ryan and Jonathan. We will be back next Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern with more PS5 and Xbox Series X news and rumors. We'll see you then.